Awesome, so
that
we
would
can
be
get started,
totally
everybody. All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Town of Dudley, Massachusetts Economic Development Committee. Today is Tuesday, February 20th, 2024. It's now 10:30 a.m. We'll start with the call to order, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. All right. Welcome. And just a note today that this meeting is being recorded. I'd like to thank Kelsey for putting together minutes. The minutes for December 19th and also January 16th. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to quickly look them over, but if we could have, to maybe take a moment to do that, and then if I could have a motion to approve the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes for January 16th.
You have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so they're approved. Thank you very much again, Kelsey. Next up on the agenda will be our friends from the CMRPC on the Gateway Plan. Jane, and please welcome. It's so great to see you. I think, how many times have we've been here? Maybe 3 or 4?
4 or 5, maybe?
5.
I'm losing count.
I know. Well, thank you very much on this cold February day. But please take it away.
Thank you. First of all, I wanted to just update on the survey. It was published in the Webster Times, the press release for it last week. I've reached out to Stonebridge Press. They said they would print it if they have room. I did not see it in there last week, so hopefully maybe this week. I have posted some of the flyers around different businesses on West Main, and then also at the library, and today we will be putting some in the lobby and in the senior center. What would really help is if, and it is on the town website, if the town has other social media pages, that would be great to get the press release on there.
Awesome.
And hopefully next time we have some good results to show you.
Right, thank you very much. That's great. And I don't know if anybody else on the committee knows if there's anything else, any other social media outlets besides just the website for the town. Is anybody familiar?
Town has a
Well, maybe Facebook.
Facebook?
Yeah, I did send it to Debbie,
Oh, I'll
who
check that.
manages that for the town. She said she would put it up.
Okay, I'll check
You checked?
Facebook. I haven't seen
Okay.
it there yet, but
Okay,
I'll check.
I would assume it's there now, but I'll make sure it is.
Awesome.
Very good.
Yeah, it'll be nice to see, what type of response that we get.
Yep,
Thank you.
for sure.
question or suggestion. Is it okay if we, as individuals, like make a link to the town website with the survey to kind of encourage our own networks to complete the survey? So that would be okay.
Yeah, I would think so.
Let's see why not.
It's not a random sample, so
Right.
the more the better. So, yeah, if you can.
So if you
get it.
are on Facebook, I'd just make a recommendation to maybe do that.
Okay.
Very good. Anything else on the survey? Nope. Last time, Bill was asking about what other towns were doing regarding their pedestrian and streetscape improvements, and so this short presentation is just to give you an idea of what some other towns are doing. I know you have printed copies there. This one is showing Victoria will drive for that presentation. If you go to the next one. So one of the examples is Oxford. I'm sure you've all been through there with all of the pedestrian crossings up and down their main street there. They've had 3 phases of improvements along Main Street, Church Street, Fremont, and Sigourney Streets. I was able to find what the cost of each of those was, and it included enhancing the solar-powered LED streetlights with bollards at the mid-block block crossings, ADA-compliant sidewalks, stormwater drainage, and roadway reconstruction. And those were funded through MassDOT Shared Streets and Spaces and Complete Streets. So I know we were talking previously about what the prospect would be of getting this streetscape improvement on the tip. And it seemed like it was going to be a very long process, and the town would have to provide a much higher match for that. So it's good to see there are other sources for the funding, and I know that Dudley has gotten some of this funding for, I think, Mason Street project. So next one. Northborough is still in the process of their downtown revitalization plan. They have allocated $250,000 of ARPA funding for it. This is just one of the 4 design alternatives that would include on-street parking, trails along the river, improving all of the streetscape area there. So it's not just a streetscape, it's kind of like here trying to economic development and even bring housing units in. And I know they were looking at a couple of old mill sites in that area for their potential multifamily housing to meet their MBTA requirements. Next. This one's a little bit older, but Northbridge enhanced the overall visual quality of their Main Street area, put in the wider sidewalks with handicapped ramps and very visible crosswalks. This was also funded through MassDOT Shared Streets and Spaces and Complete Streets. Ashland, they did streetscape and pedestrian improvements, and it's actually along a few different streets. This is just the example along one of them, and this was all done through Complete Streets funding. I'm concerned that the highway department will probably not like the curb bump outs to see if sidewalks are too narrow, you can't fit the handicap ramps in, so you kind of have to extend them out a bit, which also helps because pedestrians have a shorter distance to cross. But I'm thinking for snow plowing, and the highway department might not like those bump outs. That might provide a challenge in plowing. And sometimes the change in materials can help to really make those pedestrian crossings stand out. This one was done quite a while ago in West Brookfield. It was quite extensive, included on-street parking and grass strips along the streets and crosswalks. And I don't have the information on how that one was funded, but for a small town, they've done an awful lot to get funding for all of these improvements. And this one is where I come from, Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. They've done all the streetscape, they've got planters and benches and trash cans, and it might be a little bit of overkill, but just an example. So Dudley does have an approved Complete Streets prioritization plan, which makes them eligible for funding, so that's one possible source that we have for this project. So far, we've got this base map showing the entire length of West Main from the river out to maybe a couple hundred feet past Schofield and Village. And then as we work on the actual design for it, we're going to zoom in and break that up into 3 different sections, including the west section, which is right by Walgreens at Schofield, the middle section, and then the east section up to the river. That will give us a better scale to work with for the conceptual design. And so we wanted to talk to you today about what kind of elements you want to see in the Dudley West Main Street area. And let us know if you need to go back to any of these images.
Yeah. If I may just ask a question about this complete streets. Now, did you state, so Dudley's been approved for the complete streets prioritization plan, and we're eligible for funding, but did you mention that the town has to also like match up to a certain amount, or is this just, you get approved for funding and you
No,
can use it?
we had talked before about whether the town would be eligible for TIP, if we could put it on a TIP.
Yep,
And they usually plan like 5 years out on those.
Okay.
And so that would require the town to take on a much larger commitment as far as acquiring right-of-way and providing the match. And it would take a lot longer for it to be done. But I think Dudley's also done the shared streets and spaces. And I forget the name of that street that it's on. So you'd be eligible to apply for both of those options, which would be a much shorter time frame.
The town did get funding for the Complete Streets program, and we did sidewalks on Mason Road.
Mason Road, right.
That was a couple of years ago. They have a requirement now that you can only go in once every 4 or 5 years. So we have to wait, I think, till 2025
Okay,
before we could go back in for the Complete Streets.
for the complete streets.
The planning board is the Complete Streets Committee, and working with CMRPC, we did that prioritization plan.
Okay.
We have a long list of projects,
Mhm.
To improve pedestrian safety, sidewalks, traffic safety as well. So there's a lot of competition statewide and locally
Mhm.
for that money, but I think it would be a good use
Right.
for West Main Street of that program.
But what you're saying also is that there's other ones that are earmarked right now, so like in 2025?
Well, not officially,
Not officially?
but
Okay.
this is on the list.
Oh, awesome.
And there are a lot of others on the list too.
Right, okay.
The Shared Streets and Spaces program that CMRPC also helped us with, you may have heard about the chaos at the Selectmen's meeting when that plan was presented for Airport Road and Dudley Hill Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were there, I
I
believe.
was,
Right.
yes.
And Alan was there too, I think.
Oh, right.
So we had gotten money to redesign the Tenured Road, Airport Road,
Oh, I was there too.
Dudley Hill Road intersection. And the plan that our consultants came up with was to realign that intersection at a more right angle, a more regular intersection, and have Dudley Hill Road that comes up from the south realigned with the golf course
Mhm.
driveway, and to dead end Tenured Road, so it wouldn't intersect with the main intersection. The residents came out and were not in favor of that, so we now have a revised plan,
Okay,
which we will present to the selectmen. I forget the exact date, but it's in March, I believe,
okay.
where that Tenured Road now comes out into that intersection,
Right.
but not with Airport Road and Dudley Hill Road. So we think it's still going to accomplish the purpose of improving the safety of that intersection.
Right.
And then we hope to get a phase 2 of that project so that we can extend the sidewalks down to the plaza, Dudley Plaza.
Park and shop and everything?
Yes. So, there are a lot of needs and a lot of competition
Wow,
for these
I'd say.
funds. But, they're all great ideas.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Bill. I had to leave a little bit early, but I was at that selectmen's meeting, and that was interesting.
Right.
And then, I did see about Oxford, because I would drive through Oxford multiple times during the course of my day. And it was very interesting when you mentioned about the snow plowing and stuff like that, because from what I gathered that, there are so many crosswalks when you go down Main Street, that there was a little bit of a, I kind of was wondering, geez, how do the town plows? And they do a great job in Oxford. How do they get, past there? Or I'm sure there was some pushback, from residents as well. But yeah, anybody else have any comments regarding, any questions?
Well, I think, the streetscape work is going to be critical to the Gateway project. Because this is something the town can actually control, and it's in very bad shape, and it needs a lot of help. So, I'm happy to see all of these ideas. I think we need, to do the new sidewalks, to do the brick crosswalks, the new benches and the planters and
Everything, right?
everything basically to reconfigure that the look of that whole street, and, there's so many wonderful things that we can get from these images as to how we can do that. New, just new street trees, for example, would be helpful. I think the challenge we have is that all of these have our older villages with 2 or 3 story buildings that kind of line the street. We have parking lots, next to our street, so we have to figure out some way
Right.
to, because it's very unattractive, and it affects the image of the area. We have to figure out how to treat those parking lots to make them more visually appealing.
No, I agree, because
And
most,
make the area more pedestrian friendly as you walk by a parking lot, somehow make it seem more friendly.
right, no, I agree. I mean,
Have you
these
ever seen situations where towns have tamed that parking lot problem?
So it's interesting, I took a class last year on incremental zoning. A lot of the zoning we've done has been comprehensive zoning updates. And there's always a lot of pushback from some in the community. And the thought with this program, and I think this was from the Urban Land Institute, ULI, and they thought that you needed to identify some of the key things that will make a difference in the town and just do those incremental little changes at a time. And as people start to see that, okay, this doesn't hurt, this is actually looking good, they might be more supportive of additional changes. And the 2 that they said was on-street parking, parking in the rear of buildings, not in the front, which I know we're dealing with an existing condition here. And then also making sure that people have glass storefronts. And I noticed that one of the buildings, I think you said the people who bought it at the corner of Mill, I think, in West Main. There's a storefront there now with furniture for sale, and I noticed this morning people are working on that building, so
Yeah.
some improvements
the person
there.
that owns that property
Yes.
owns the apartment. It's like to the left of that.
Okay.
It's back a little bit, and the commercial property that had actually relatively newer commercial grade like glass on the front. Used to have believe it or not, an old shoe cobbler, which
Okay.
I don't believe is there anymore. A hairstylist, I think, is also in there as well. But that owner owns all 3 of those properties. Yeah, so if,
So it'd be great to see some private improvements too.
yeah. But, to Bill's point, I did notice, because, and Broken Arrow, Oklahoma is beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. But to Bill's point, it kind of reminds me like of Webster, right down the road. There is a downtown, whereas here, there isn't, right? So it's just how to incorporate that, and then when we come over from Webster, over that little bridge, we've got all these parking lots, and how creative, but I mean, just all of that kind of, like, if it's the hardscape, the benches, all of those things, the flowers, the trees, anything like that, just because I don't, as long as I've lived in Dudley, which is going on 15 years, it's just, there hasn't been anything like that. There's been no like, oh, I'm in Dudley, besides, maybe the sign, but, go ahead, John.
Well, I think one of the things that's kind of interesting is, unless you've ever been a walker, for years I used to take a walk up West Main Street. And there are places where if you were starting from Webster, when you just cross over that bridge and you're at Mill Street, if there were something there that were an area like this, where you could stop, sit, rest, that kind of thing. But a lot of this revolves around the lack of the sidewalks going up the rest of West Main, because then the next place you come to, you get up near the post office or up a little further where Cumberland is, that would be another good place to stop. I used to walk all the way up to Dunkin' Donuts. And the sidewalks, really, the lack of sidewalks put you had to be on one side versus the other. You had to cross over in order to get to those sidewalks. So I think a lot of this does revolve around not having sidewalks, but I think, again, you create a downtown area by having those things that are periodic breaks, I think, to give you a different feel. So you have to picture yourself, take that walk up West Main and see where it is you would like to stop and look. It's unfortunate where Cumberland Farms is, there's not a nice area to cross. People are always on the run, because then you have people making the right turn around there who can go right on red, and it's like, oh, you gotta make sure you're not taking off somebody. But I think these areas could be created if businesses would participate even like where Schofield Ave is, there's a little area there that could maybe be enhanced more, and you have a few pretty savvy commercial owners on different properties maybe that would participate a little bit with doing something like that. But I think it's about, if you're trying to make it a walking area and not just about a parking situation, you create a different feel on doing that. Because it's a beautiful walk all the way up West Main, if you really want to take a nice walk. But you'll get up the hill like where the town hall is, and you're like, huh. I used to walk from here, we would go up to Dunkin' Donuts, and then we would go all the way to Friendly's. So our walk was a long walk, and no stretch when you were in Dudley to take a little break to sit on doing that. So I think that's a beautiful little area, and you never know. You have people maybe who would participate on doing that. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You know, this, the study that we're doing now, the Gateway Plan, was funded through the Community One Stop program. One Stop for Growth is the name of the program. You know, I'm wondering if we could, you know, once we have a good handle on this study, go back in and say, look, you funded the plan, now we're ready to do some design, and sort of get a design for the streetscape work as the next phase
Right.
of the Gateway sort of umbrella. And that'll take another 2 years. But then after that, you know, we can get, you know, seek money for construction.
Construction.
You know, once we have the plan, you know, the actual engineering work done.
And we would have to hire an outside engineering firm to.
Sure.
Right,
Right.
and we can use the funds from this to, obviously.
You've credited the engineering firms on your images here.
Yeah.
So there are a number of companies we can go to that would love this kind of a project.
So there is one consultant who's working on the Village and Mill Street project. Do you know where they are in that process? I don't know if design is done or not.
Yeah, they're more infrastructure based.
Oh, okay, for the
Doing sewer work
utilities.
and the sidewalks,
Okay,
but I don't know if they do streetscape kind of projects.
okay, okay,
Maybe they do, I've not seen that kind of effort from them.
okay.
Would there be a way to even just reach out to the town of Oxford to see who
Sure.
who did
Oh, yeah.
there? You know, because they, you know, again, I just know what I know because I drive through there all the time, and just to see, you know, who they've used, you know?
We've used VHB for a number of projects here in town as well, so that
Oh.
would be a good possibility.
Okay.
They do this kind of work.
Oh, wow, all right.
They're multidisciplinary as well, so.
Interesting. Well, does anybody else have any comments? I mean, this is a very pretty detailed, and I just, it's this so, like, I'd love to see all this. You know, I'm more of the person that I love it. Okay, when can we start? I'd like to see it now. But it's just a timeline, all these other things.
I just want to make sure that we answered Jane's question. So the question was, what elements would you like to see on West Main? So did you get a good sense of that? I mean, I hear sidewalks and pedestrian crossings are really a priority for that area.
And based on Oxford, do you want to only include the crosswalks where really needed, or, because there are a lot of them in Oxford.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, is Main Street in Oxford very similar to West Main Street here in regards to getting is it a state road? It's a state road, right?
It is, but I thought that section was town,
Dudley?
yes.
It is town.
And it's funny because the complete streets prioritization plan has a to be determined on the West Main Street portions because they were trying to determine if it was state or local. So,
Okay.
but I think since then, we've determined it's local.
Right. So these programs are only available for town-maintained streets. If it's state road, then you have to go through a whole different process.
Gotcha.
But it's town road from the bridge up to just past the light
Just past the light. So
So-
anything further,
Would be state.
so when we take our long walk, Joanne, all the way up to Dunkin' Donuts, we may not have as many. So we can't do, that's just crosswalks because it has to do with the street, right? We could do other things, whether it be the hardscaping or the benches and stuff, that could be, does that have to be limited to that area as well?
Well, I mean, we're focused on the Gateway area.
Okay,
Once we
all right.
get beyond that area, you know, that West Main Street would be a different kind of project.
Okay.
I should also bring up that I attended the Thompson Trails Committee meeting a couple weeks ago, because we had talked about the benefit of trying to connect the trails between Thompson and Dudley. Wanted to learn a little bit more about the status of that and what the holdup is on it. Apparently, there have been some right-of-way issues, some property owners who are opposed to it, so they're considering slightly altering the plan to get around those problem areas. But we had a really great meeting last week with Pete Sutton with MassDOT, Mass Trails. This is one of the priority trails in the state that they'd like to see finished. And we also had Lyanne Graff, I think is her last name, from the Last Green Valley at the meeting, who's very interested in helping to, in any way she can, to try to get these trails completed. So I wonder if the trails are along West Main, also if there's a way to add the trail component to that. So,
I don't know the answer to that.
Can I ask, who was responsible for the college's walkways and all of that? Was that the town of the college that did, which is the official center of Dudley? And they have the nicest walking area that you can imagine. They did exactly what we're trying to accomplish here, but I don't know if it was the town of the college who did that.
I don't know the answer to that, but I could find out.
Yeah, I have the plans in my office, but I've never researched the history of it.
I mean, it's kind of interesting. That's exactly what we're looking for, and they did it.
Beautiful.
Whoever did it.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
it's right on the campus?
Yes, the walkways are
Center-
beautiful when
Center
you're
Road.
going through.
Okay.
They slow you down for the, of course, they were trying to slow down traffic, I'm sure, but even the landscaping, everything around it, and the historic people should be elated because it kept the flavor of what the community's all about. And that is, quote, our official center.
That is our official center, so I forget
Take a
about
ride
that.
through and pay more attention when you're going, we're so busy trying to make sure we're going over the little humps that you're not paying attention to everything that's
Yeah.
around it, all the landscaping they did, it's beautiful.
Right, and that we don't hit any students either when we drive through.
You know, one issue we would have in the gateway is the overhead power lines, which really detract, you know, from the visual appearance, but it's very expensive to put power lines underground.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether we could actually get that as part of the project or not, but, you know, when you look at your images, if you don't see the power lines, you don't even notice them, that they're gone, but it really helps,
Mm,
you know,
interesting.
with the look.
That
of
would
the
mean no
area.
trees on one side of the street. With the power lines are usually just one side.
So in Ashland, I still see power lines, at least on the lower image, but they're not there in the upper two images.
Bill made the copies.
What
Do
page
you have any
on,
more
Bill?
copies?
No, I'm sorry, I don't.
Okay.
I think, seven, I
Take a
think.
look and we'll run a copy off of it.
It was interesting in speaking with some of the different committees or commissions such as Historic and Ag and Arts and Culture. Some of the people supported trees in the streetscape and others did not. So they thought it was just a maintenance issue. So it was interesting to hear different opinions about it. And we had talked before about tactical urbanism, and even if we don't have funding immediately to do this, there are shorter-term things you can do, such as the planters, or things to try to get some buzz going, get people more interested in having something done down there.
Makes sense.
And we talked a little bit about the private sector improvements. We've also started looking into the facade and design guidelines from other communities and trying to see what would match here. So next time, we hope to bring that in to go over that. Some of these communities have established funds where people can take out loans, low interest, no interest loans, to do their facade improvements. And some of them, I believe, have grants. So we'll be looking into how that can be achieved.
That would be a great, and I don't think, I'm not sure if we here in Dudley have it, but I know some, even just over the border in Connecticut, some other towns have programs where they're trying to, entice if there's any vacancies in their local downtown shops, to give them, even startup businesses, the funds to either property owners, some funding to, like you said, reface, or, new startup businesses, that want to open up that coffee shop, the bagel shop, or whatever it is in that area. And it could be like small micro loans, maxing out at like $25,000, but it's enough to get the,
Right. A lot of the ones I've seen have been around 10 or so.
so.
Yeah, maybe a little more.
Mark, did you have something?
Yeah, I think that we should, we probably need to try to not be too ambitious, on this first bite of the apple, so to speak, again, to some of the comments that were made, whether it be something as simple as lighting, some benches, and certainly signage to the gateway. I think that's a start. That's, if we have this huge ambitious plan, I don't ever see it rolling out because, we don't have enough money to do all of that. So I think if we start to do a little bit of it, then if we start to introduce, well, hey, you get a microloan to, because the enhancement of the properties that line the road are, let's face it, that's a big part of the beautification. And you're gonna get some that'll say, yeah, I would support it, but you're gonna get a bunch that'll say, no way, even if you gave me the money, I'm collecting my rent, I'm happy, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing. I don't live in town, I could care less, whatever. I think you're just gonna get some of that. So I think if we kind of show them some of the, some of the smaller things that you can do that will make, that will start the project and will get people more involved and interested. That's just my opinion about.
So
how
you
get started.
mentioned lighting, signage, and was there another?
And maybe some planters, you had indicated that the planters were, fairly inexpensive or whatever, but, we talk about Oxford. Oxford got a grant to hire people to water the planters, and so you gotta think through all of that. Okay, we put flowers in there and you spend money on flowers, but
Right.
we already defunded the highway department. Who's gonna go and water them? So
Right.
we gotta think through all the real stuff here. Oh yeah, it'd be great to have planters, but if they're planters and there are no plants in there, or the plants are dead, that's not gonna be fun either, right? So,
I agree.
Great point.
I think it's probably a better idea to plant in the ground. We can put in the bulbs like we saw in the picture here, put in the bulbs, and then you've got the perennials that come back every year, interplanted with the bulbs when the bulbs die back. But it's much easier to maintain,
That is a good point.
Planters who you've got to water,
Mm,
or you have a mess.
That's true.
yeah.
But I agree. I think Mark brings up a very good point, and sometimes,
Right.
I know I get ahead of myself because I want to think big, but I think it makes more sense to take a small bite of the apple, as Mark says, and then just show incrementally, and then we can see how it goes. I don't know if everybody else is on the same page, but, but also doing something small, but with an immediate, like, if somebody drives through, they can see it. And they're like, wow, okay, that looks really nice over there. And then, okay, and that's that small area, there's a few things that are done, so I agree with what Mark said.
So it could be more like a phasing plan.
I think so, I
So
think
we
that makes more
start
sense.
out with the smaller,
Yeah,
more doable pieces.
right.
Sure.
Yeah, we can have an overall master plan for what we want it to be, but, we've been talking about it for a while, and we are moving along. I don't mean to sound impatient, but, the gateway and then the complete streets, and, if we can just get some things happening, I think people will then get embraced, and we're talking about this survey, right? Wouldn't it be great if the survey came out and they have already seen some changes, and then we can add those to that master plan, whatever survey info we get from that.
Speaking of the gateway, I was wondering if you had envisioned something that was more of just a sign, or something sculptural, or something landscape.
Well, we do have $10,000 in the contract
Yes.
to actually build something.
To do
A sign
something?
or, you know, whatever we come up with, but we were thinking of some kind of a welcoming feature into Dudley. So, are you suggesting we start working on that now?
Just to get your ideas going, because that's something that would be quickly noticeable as well.
You know, we did talk about, I forget what meeting it was, there were, you had pointed out some town that put these, I wanna say they were frogs,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Might have been
and
the
we-
first meeting.
That spurred the discussion, is there something local?
That's Willimantic.
But Willimantic, like, I grew up in Lowell, and it was, you know, big mill town. You know, I know there's a lot of mills here, but was there something specific, you know, like, it used to be like the, you know, the spindle or whatever, because it was up in Lowell, they manufactured a lot of cloth and things like that. Is there something here in Dudley that we could incorporate, like you had said, sculpture, sign, or something? And I don't know if any of the folks that have been longer residents here in Dudley, and I think we might have even mentioned talk with somebody from the historical, but I don't know if anybody here has any ideas, or if we can maybe just think about it and
For the next time, yeah.
the next time.
I think you're gonna get, for $10,000, you're gonna get a half a frog, right? And what is it gonna mean on a bridge? I just think you need to identify Dudley right now, or not identify it. You know, where does the Webster-Dudley line, you know, exist? A lot of people might not even know, you know, but I don't think it should be a, you know, softball champs of 2020, you know, whatever. I don't think it should be a sign like that. I think it should be more elaborate, but I don't think it needs to be a concrete frog or, you know, I don't know. I don't think that means anything, in my opinion. Maybe later on down the road, maybe we get another grant that's bigger. Now all of a sudden we can kind of get involved in that. But I think we need to hit both ends of the town with, you know, some signage to say welcome, you know, and you can put on that sign what we're known for, and then we can elaborate on that. Again, I just think that we need to keep it somewhat simple to start out and get some progression and get some eyes on some of these things that are visual, that people will notice and say, wow, there's a lot of changes going on there, and I'm gonna fill out this survey, or I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna do that, or I'm gonna enhance my property. I'm gonna invest in Dudley.
That makes sense.
I just wanted to circle back around to the flower bed maintenance issue.
Yeah.
I believe that one thing they do on Center Road is they have like a rock bed, and that's a garden, but that's also the drainage system, so all the runoff water goes there. So in a sense, it's kind of low maintenance because it has the rock bedding, but also it waters itself.
That makes sense. Interesting. Thank you.
I think I have to agree with Mark on signage might be a good route to go. You go in Oxford and they have those signs about how they welcome business. Every time I go by, I look at that sign when you're coming off of Cheltenham Road and the back road from Dudley. I think a sign would be good, but I'm wondering if there is something. I mean, I love that Discover Dudley. I told you that's sitting right in front of us. Is there something that could go on that sign that would be unique to us to put on there, not about baseball, you know, so what you've said, exactly that, because that's meaningless. And maybe the historical group has got something we're not thinking of that we really have under our nose that does make us different with Dudley. And we haven't really been inclusive in our meetings. We know sometimes you invite a lot of people, you get a lot more controversy, but maybe we should be reaching out a little bit more for a little bit of input from those other boards and not reinvent the wheel and see what's out there. I gotta go along with the sign. I think that's a great idea. I think it really is.
I do as well. I think Mark brings up a great point.
Have you guys seen any unique signage, you know, going into small communities like ours, you know, aside of the, you know, the frog? Again, I think those are very interesting, but further down the road, you know, almost like something between the, you know, a statue and, you know, a small sign that says, welcome to our town, you know. Something more, a little more elaborate than that, something that's not a reflective, you know, sign, but something that's warm, you know, and inviting, but still gets the message across, you know.
I've seen some that include landscaping around it, so it
Yeah,
kind of
maybe,
frames
or
the
a
sign.
flagpole, or, you can do any of that stuff, that's, you can dress that up, but something that, I don't know, yeah, that's just not an impersonal sign, something more warmer, inviting, or, we'll have to,
It'd be interesting, though, to get some, like, just some examples,
Yeah.
just to say, hey, let's, it'd just be like, wow, that kind of, we like the look and feel of that kind of a thing. But keeping it simple,
Yeah.
like to use.
In my mind, I'm seeing like a hand-carved wood type.
That's what I was thinking, yeah. I don't have the picture on this computer, but I did copy one that I thought looked really nice.
Nice.
Well, again, it's under your nose again in Webster, you go into it and Webster Lake, the sign that's coming in out of Connecticut, right away you know you've crossed into Webster with
Yeah.
the lake sign that's
Right.
there. And it does pose what is unique about Webster with the Indians on it and the whole name of Webster Lake.
Interesting.
What if we invite the historical committee to our meeting?
Okay.
Yeah. And see what their ideas are.
That or
That's a
invite
good
the
idea.
chairman. I think if you want to keep it simple, the person who relays information or
Yeah.
whatever, but I think
Great idea.
when you try and go it alone, a lot of things are a lot harder, because then those are the people who are the naysayers
Yeah.
when you try to go forward with what you do, whereas if they're an integral part of it, they may be a little bit more on board with it, when they have an interest in the community.
yeah, or look what Chris Robert did with that museum, right? So people came out of the woodwork with making donations to, I have a bell, that's been sitting in my basement forever, that was the bell that was on the hotel or whatever. There are people in Dudley that have something that could be of interest to us that might cost us nothing, right? So maybe that's something that we integrate. And so if someone pours a cement foundation and we put that, and then there's a sign and there's a flag, and I mean, I think that would be fairly inexpensive to do, but still gets the point across, and it's something more than just, a standard sign, and it's less than having a contractor come in and, pour this, amazing statue or whatever of
Right.
of what Dudley represents, right? So,
Yeah.
like what they did in front of Price Chopper in Webster, that was the old Cranston print, and they had that steeple that they put on the top. Now, that was expensive for them to build the facade, put it on, but that's the concept that I'm
Concept, yeah.
looking at, so.
Makes sense.
One thing that I really enjoy in Dudley is when you're driving over Dresser Hill Road, up near the water tanks, we have a huge flag, and it's lit. It's all lit up. Stunning. Every time I drive by it, I notice it. If we had something like that, and
Well, the flag
we don't
painted
have
on
to
the
have the
water
same
tower
thing
is
at
nice.
our entries. What was that?
Yeah, that flag that's painted on the water tower is very nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
a lot of people stop and take pictures in front
Yeah.
of it.
yeah, but a flag
That's what you
flowing
want,
and lit
yeah.
up, stunning.
Let's get out and take a picture, right? So if it's that nice, then you hit the right,
Yeah.
Yeah,
hit the
yeah.
right mark.
You hit the right mark. Interesting. Well, I think we have a lot of, great ideas and kind of, things to look at. So, I mean, that's, keep it simple. We're looking at the signage, and just a few things to, little bit at a time. We'll focus on that area down there. But if anybody doesn't have any other comments regarding the gateway plan, we all set there? All right, next up on the agenda is having you discuss the industrial land study.
And Joseph could not make it today. He did say they're really kicking it into gear this
Okay.
week. He'll be talking to Carrie tomorrow, and then either he or Carrie can get back to Bill with an update.
Awesome,
And hopefully, one of them can make it at the next meeting, one or both. So,
great.
Do you know what the time frame is on that study? Is there a,
it's supposed to be done by the end of June, I think.
by the end of June? Okay.
I think both projects wrap up around the same time. So,
So we have a lot of work to do on that one then,
yes.
get that shape by June 30.
Because that'll be here before you know it. Hmm.
Yeah, it was originally gonna be December, and the town administrator asked for
That's
it
right, I
to be
remember,
done
I saw that.
earlier. So,
Awesome.
I think that is all that we have. I think so.
That's it. Well, thank you so much. As always,
welcome.
you're more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. If not, can't thank you enough for all the hard work. It's obvious that you put a lot of time into this, and we're just very fortunate to be partners with you.
Thank you so much. And we'll bring back some of the examples you asked for, and be ready to talk a little bit more about facade improvements next time.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, guys.
All right, folks, next up on the agenda, our town planner update, providing an update of current development activity. Bill?
Not a whole lot going on, but I would like to.
Well, it sounded like the selectmen's meeting was very interesting.
It was.
Okay.
But Ricky was appointed as our alternate member
Yep.
to expire on June 30th, so it's an annual appointment, so if you're interested, Ricky, we'll put you back on, and you know, selectmen's meeting in June, be reappointed. We have 2 other members who would be up then. I had that figured out. I don't have it with me right now, but we can deal with that in June. I think, Todd, you might be up.
I might be up, yeah.
Joanne, you were just reappointed, I believe.
I think so.
Helen and Mark were reappointed by the first day. Robin and Lisa. And Kelsey, you might be up, but I'll let you know.
All right.
When that happens. The other thing of interest is the Packard mill, one on Schofield Avenue, that's been damaged by, there was a burst. There was a lot of damage to that building, but the property is sold. We met with the new developer, and he's got ambitious plans for the property.
Okay.
Which would be very exciting if he's able to pull it off. He renovate the mill to a mixed-use project. He's envisioning a restaurant, offices, and residences in the upper floors of the mill building, plus a new 5-story residential building on the property.
Wow.
So it would be, you know, a major development here for the town. We met with his team, he's got an architect and engineer working on it with him, so he's, you know, making an investment into the design. Part of it is in the floodplain, so he needs to deal with the floodplain issues, but his team, you know, is able to deal with that, I believe. He's gonna be, it's a ways away. He's got to, you know, get the design done, he's gotta come before the planning board for a mill conversion, overlay district, special permit. He might need a variance from the ZBA to build that 5-story building because it exceeds the zoning district height limit. He's got stormwater plans he needs to prepare, go before the Conservation Commission. So it's a long-term
Project.
project on his part, maybe 2 years of permitting and then, you know, construction after that, so
Yeah.
maybe in 2027 or something, we have a ribbon cutting ceremony on that, if that actually goes forward. So it'd be kind of exciting.
That is
That's
exciting.
the Schofield Avenue?
Yes.
And do they, when you said a 5-story residential apartments,
Yes.
do they have any idea how many units?
I do, but I don't recall.
No worries.
He had it on his plan.
Wow. That sounds great. I mean, because,
Yeah.
I mean, even if it is 2027, I mean,
Gotta start sometime.
right? Wow,
So that's all I had.
pretty much. Awesome. All righty. Next up on the agenda, open discussion. Anybody have something to bring up to the committee? I don't know if we wanted to bring it up, but I know, Mark, you sent an email regarding the library down in Webster, and whether or not that we may want to see about having, if any interest in Dudley.
Yeah, so I just left the Webster Dudley Business Alliance meeting, and we had the Assistant Director, Evan Hale, stop in. And so basically what their plan is to take their periodical space, which is on the second floor, and clear that out, bring the periodicals and put them down in the main entry of the library. Because right now, everybody basically comes in and they go up the stairs and they congregate up there because the children's room's up there and all the other things that they might be interested in are up there. So no one's really downstairs. So they are planning to keep the periodicals. And they're gonna take the periodical room and they're gonna turn it into a small business incubator. And what that would entail is someone who's trying to get a business going or started in the town, and they would give them the ability to come in and basically print large documents, plans, different things like that. They're planning to buy a vinyl plotter, a large printer, so invest in some technologies. The grant that they put together is due by the end of February, and then the decision, if they got the money, would be the end of April. They were looking for some support from some local groups, such as the Webster Dudley Business Alliance, but they also met with the Sturbridge, the historical place in Sturbridge. I can't think of it. Old Sturbridge Village, sorry. Yeah, so it's right there. So they met with them and they got their support as well. They needed, for the grant, they need these letters to be written stating that, you know, we really think that this is something that would, you know, be beneficial for the town. So we told them that we would certainly support them on that. The space is about 40 by 40, so it's not huge, but it would definitely be something that would work for what they're looking for, and then they would expand on that. They're looking to meet or get an introduction to Choice One temps and Massa Staffing, which is also in Webster, you know, for hiring needs of some of these. So basically, it's just a support structure for, you know, small businesses that are in town or that potentially be interested in coming to town. And then, let's see. And then a couple other ideas came up for, and so they want to do hold some seminars and things for businesses. So we do a lot of that, like workshops. So one might be on financial literacy, another one might be on, you know, small business association, how do you run a business? And, you know, the biggest problem with the reason why we have all these vacant buildings is because, just as an example, where the old Thai restaurant was, a Mexican restaurant opened up. It's a very small space, but they come in, and I don't know what they're offering, but you got Mexicali down the street, and you've got, you know, so we realize that a lot of people are like, oh, I've always had a passion to make Mexican food, and oh, there's a storefront, but the research isn't done that you're very close and you're dealing with, you know, someone who's been here for a long time, and, you know, or I'm going to open a pizza place and there's 3 in the same, you know, block. You know, it's just, I don't know why my business didn't survive, but, you know, it's stuff like that. So maybe if could be some education on that before they actually go in and sign a 3-year lease on something, you know. So that's their thought process. There's not a guarantee that it's going to happen, but I just think that we've got some amazing space in the Dudley Library, and I don't think all of it's being utilized, but I don't spend a lot of time there, so I don't know. I could be wrong about that, but I think that it certainly, if it would work for Webster, I think it certainly would work for Dudley. I know our library is closed some days, and it could be because of staffing, but if we could get, you know, some revenue stream from being a member of this incubator or whatever it is. Yeah, there's help support, but there's maybe a member fee or whatever it might be. We can increase our revenues there so that we can, you know, hire the staff or make a part-time, a full-time person, you know. So anyway, certainly something that, you know, and the email I sent was basically a more detailed version of what I just shared with everyone, but I think that probably the next step would be to bring in the director or the assistant director of our library to one of our meetings and say, are you aware of what's going on in Webster, and what are your thoughts on this sort of thing, and do you have any rooms that, you know, could be utilized for this, or, you know, do you want to, you know, maybe create something of our own, you know, using this as an idea. You know, maybe this wouldn't work for Dudley, but maybe something similar would work for Dudley, you know.
And are they looking for any more letters of support? Like from, let's say, I mean, I know we're not in Webster, but, I mean.
Yeah, no, I mean, they seem to be, you know, happy with, yeah, I mean, they want as much support as they can get, but I think that they're probably, I mean, they did go to Sturbridge, but I don't know the link there, but they, you know, they targeted specifically our group in Webster Dudley because we have a presence in Webster, you know, so I think they kind of wanted some more local, but I mean, I can certainly inquire.
Wow, I think it's a great idea. I know there was a person, her name's Jill St. Clair. She's the head of the business development down in Killingly, Connecticut. She came and spoke with us in front of our committee a while back. And that's actually one of the things that she does, and she has a small business academy where she runs it, and it's right out of the library in Killingly. And she asks, you know, people to come and like what Mark said, one topic was financial literacy. The other was how to negotiate a lease agreement, or what to do, walking them through, or how about just a business plan, you know, talking about walking through all that stuff. And then also, if you get to a certain point and you need some funding, how to, you know, put yourself in a position where you can approach a bank. And that's where I came in, and I gave a talk on like what banks look for and all this other stuff. So I think, you know, to Mark's point, if we could maybe invite, you know, folks from our own library here, and to see what kind of space is available, and to maybe have our own little incubator, but like also not trying to reinvent the wheel, maybe take a look at what they're doing down the street to see, you know, if we can get some ideas and maybe even collaborate and just say, hey, listen, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the grant time frame is, there are always grant applications, but this one in particular sounds like, you know, it's ending, you know, soon. So I'm not sure that we could get in on that, get them in, you know, but I don't know if we have if anyone has a relationship with the director in there now, but just to have a conversation and say, are you aware of this? You know, forward that email. I don't know if anyone here, Bill, if you wanted to send that email to the selectmen and, you know, say, hey, guys, you know, you want to approach the, you know, the library director and see if this is something that, you know, we could consider. I can get the name of the grant or the application or whatever.
One of the planning board members is also on the board of trustees of the library.
Ah,
So we have a connection there, so I'll talk to him
nice.
about it
yeah,
and see if we can, you know, work something out.
yeah.
I guess the strength we have in going into a grant like that is our connection to the college. I mean, we're a business school, so all of that programming, you know, our faculty, and even graduate students and things like that could run, you know.
That'd be awesome.
So that is, you know, maybe something that we would have going for us in a grant process.
Especially with the great reputation of the business school at Nichols. Wow.
Mark, can you forward whatever you have on that project, and I'll see what I can do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, well, thank you, Mark. Anybody have anything else on the committee for open discussion? No? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. All right, thank you, everybody. So the meeting for the